Destiny is a friend to no one except Martell. You can definitely see where her loyalty lies. Let's get into my Love and Marriage Huntsville recap. Season 9, Episode 11. So the episode opens up with Kimmy's messy ass coming over to Mel's. Mel has actually invited Kimmi over since Kimmi did show up for Mel at Mimosas with Melody. So they sit down and they get right into the tea. Melody has whipped up, it looked like some nachos or something for them to eat and for them to have a little girl chat. Kimmi brings up the fact that, some of the group hangs out at certain events and the other half of the group hangs out at other events. So she said Martell recently had an open house and she named all the suspects that were there. And she also asked Melody, do her and Fletcher still hang out? Chris Fletcher. And she was like, I don't hang out with Chris Fletcher, but yeah, we're cordial. So Kimmi proceeds to tell her that Fletcher is the piece in the middle of why Trisha and Martell hooked up. So I was like, ooh, okay, that was messy. And that was like her little get back. So when she says that, she was like, well, she's like, so what do you, what do you mean? So she was like, this is my first time hearing this because I just saw Nell when she was out dress shopping and Nell didn't bring this up. So she says, she said, I'll have a conversation with Chris, but she says, I'm really not surprised because Chris was a cheater too. And he was Martell's mentor. I was like, ouch. So Kimmi goes on to say, yeah, when they heard the news of that they all felt a type of way because they felt like Chris and Nell are the people that were supposed to be trying to help you guys hold your marriage together and help you guys, figure out a way back towards each other. So, Melody then goes on to say, she'll just have a conversation with Chris. Then Kimmi goes on to say, since that didn't get under Mel's skin, Kimmi goes on to say that she was surprised to see Trisha and Ken at Mimosas with Melody. And she was like, based on the interaction that y'all had at the graduation. And Melody was like, what you mean? She was like, I brought a check for her kids, so I'm confused. And she's like, well, Trish told us that you felt like you were being messy at the kids' graduations. And Melody said, being messy, about what? She said, I'm not concerned about the circle of men that Trisha has going on right now. She said, I came in good spirits to the graduation to celebrate the kids. But, if anybody should have an issue, I should have an issue with Trish because she was messing with my ex-husband at the time while we were still married. And Kimmi was like, well, I don't think anybody thinks that they did it. And she said, girl, you believe that if you want to, but nobody believes that, which nobody doesn't believe that Trisha and Martell just sat and watched movies or TV. And she said, you know what, Kimmi, I made up my mind right now. I don't like her. I'm not gray. I'm black and white. And I made my decision right now that I don't like Trisha, and that's that. And also Melody brought up the fact, when they had their sit down, none of this information came up about Chris Fletcher being the one to hook them up either. So she was like, I'm seeing all the red flags about Trish, and it's a wrap for me and her. And Kimmi was looking all wide mouth and surprised by this after she did her duty as being the bone collector and being the bone carrier. So the next the next scene, we see Destiny and Tisha meet up to have breakfast. And baby, that breakfast was sky high that Tisha ordered. It looked really good though, but so they're sitting down, exchanging pleasantries, not much going on. Tisha's complimenting Destiny on her makeup and stuff like that. Then Martell walks in. Baby, Tisha was mid-bite. She looked up and she saw Martell and she was like, oh, hell no. And, as Martell was getting ready to walk in his confessional, he says that Destiny told him that him and Tisha were meeting up. He said he was coming through there to see if Tisha was going to offer him an apology or if he was going to give one, or both apologies were going to be given on both sides. And I'm like, what? What would make him think Tisha would offer him an apology? So when Tisha sees him mid-bite, she says, I cannot sit at the table with the enemy and my husband is not present. So y'all enjoy this. Bye. I will dismiss myself. Baby, they could not believe how quick she got up and walked away. And my thing is this: Destiny is going to say, well, she probably wasn't in a space to receive a apology, Martell. And Martell was like, I'm tired of being nice to people. And if you're not going to be nice to me, then forget you then. And I'm like, does Martell have an apologetic bone in his body? Like, I don't know if I've really seen Martell even go to somebody and apologize. Maybe Melody once, maybe. I don't know. Let me know, guys. Put it in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you're made aware when I drop another recap. So I also, in addition to that, I also think, so then, you know, in my humble opinion, I feel as though this is get back at Tisha for Tisha not telling her that Sonny was going to be in St. Thomas on a girls trip. I think this is get back. You let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you think it's get back. And I'm telling you right now, Destiny is not a friend to anyone, period. Her most loyal person on the show is Martell, and I wonder why she's so loyal to Martell, because he is doing nothing but creating chaos. And I don't know how Martell continues on the show or Destiny, but let me know what your thoughts are. Tisha, she is 38 hot. The next scene, she pulls up on Marsau in person. She done took off her little heels. She got her sneakers off. She going up to the job site. And she lets Marsau know that Martell popped up on her while she was having breakfast with Destiny. Marsau says it's hard to be a protector, but you carried yourself well by just leaving and not engaging with him, because we don't know what could have happened, because basically Marsau is saying Martell can self-regulate himself when it comes to his emotions, and he'll get into it with anybody, man, woman, dog, it don't even matter. So that was a really quick scene. Tisha just made it clear, I'm not engaging with him. I don't want nothing to do with him. He's the enemy. And guys, don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on my notifications so you're aware when I drop a recap. And in addition to that, I do have a podcast called Conversations with the Fly. Please feel free to check it out. It'll be in a playlist. So next, we have a scene at Madani in this storage unit, because that's what it is. I just recently helped my daughter move into her own apartment. She has a storage unit, and that's just exactly what that place looks like. It's a storage facility. I don't care what the people that got it now turned it into. It's a storage facility, okay? Let's not play games. And it's small as hell. So Lance and Destiny are there. I guess Lance does some type of carpentry work. He's going to put in some drywall and some shelves into her storage unit. And Kimmi then walks in. And baby, you can see how tight the space is, because think about how small a storage unit is. And this is a small storage unit. Then on top of that, you are filming. So you have camera people, cameras, and all of that. It is so freaking small. So Kimmi walks in and she's like, yeah, girl, I've been getting a lot of compliments. I've been wearing the Big D energy and I get so many compliments. And the space is so tight, y'all. And then Tisha walks in. Tisha's like, oh, I'm still supportive. I'm over the fact that Martell popped up on us, but I just want to show support to her. So I'm showing up to her, I don't even know what it's called, her space, her holding space. So, next, you see the aerial shot of how small the space is. So next, they eventually go outside to talk, because everybody was bumping into each other. Like 4 people in that storage room is like too many people. That's how tight it is. So eventually they move outside because the place is so small. And the bone carrier lets everybody know that, we all were in attendance to mimosas with Melody. And Destiny was like the only one that didn't get an invite. Kimmi was like, well, have y'all been talking? She was like, no. She was like, but I didn't get an invite. She was like, well, Sonny was there. So I'm thinking maybe because Sonny was there, Destiny wasn't invited, and it isn't the place for her and Sonny to be getting into anything any further. And I'm sure maybe that was one of the reasons why Mel didn't invite her. So then they bring up the fact that Sonny had let them know that, because they asked where's Moses was, and Sonny let them know that he basically got, he's incarcerated on a probation violation. And the glee in Destiny's face when that was said, she seemed so happy. She was like, I don't want to see Sonny no more. I don't want to see Moses no more. I want them to stay in St. Louis and not come to Huntsville. And then she goes on to say, well, I'm the one in charge of Nell Fletcher's bachelorette party. And they're like, well, so are you inviting everybody? That's what Kimmi says. Are you inviting everybody? And Tisha slow ass, she gonna say, well, why are you having a bachelorette party for her? She already married. And I guess it could be true. If you guys are having a vow renewal, would you have a bachelorette party if you didn't get to have one your first time around? Let me know in the comments. So she's saying, I'm going to invite everybody. They're like, yeah, you can't just disregard and not invite everybody because you're not getting along with people. You have to, be the bigger person. So she agrees to invite everybody. Then she starts to transition and to discuss the reopening of Madani. And I'm like, how many reopenings of Madani are we going to have? Because everyone comes with some drama and some BS. So I'm like, here we go. So the next scene is Melody and Fletcher meet up, and Melody gets straight to it. They meet up to like a gourmet popcorn place. They're sitting out front. Seems like a nice day. And, Chris Fletcher is a very composed, very smooth guy. Okay? Very composed and very smooth guy. And he is so eloquent when he speaks. And I can see how, women get wrapped up in his charm. Okay? But nonetheless, so, Fletcher basically, Melody says what she heard. Fletcher basically says, this is how it happened. He said, we found out a little bit more to the story. This time we find out that Fletcher told him Trisha's last name. Martell proceeds to go on whatever social media platform he goes on, finds her, screenshots a picture of her, and asks, is this her? And Fletcher says yes. And he basically said, I didn't do anything. All this is Trisha and Martell's doing, and anything that happened beyond that is on them. And I mean, yeah, that's very accurate and correct. But I'm gonna go with this one. He is a smooth operator. Yes, he is. So after they had that conversation, Chris is like, basically, it's just man talk. That's all it is, men talk. And she says, well, I want to bring up a conversation I remember having with a heated discussion I had with Martell when I told Martell that he needs to speak to his older married friends. And Martell came back and said he did. He said, you're supposed to deal with somebody that has something to lose, and you're supposed to make them sign paperwork and NDAs. And Chris then throws Maurice and Marsau under the bus and says that sounds like something that Maurice and Marsau came up with. That ain't something that I'm on. He says, look, I've been married 30 years. I'm not cheating. I don't have that in me. And Melody says, well, at one time you did. I was like, well, damn. He said, well, that was over 20 years ago. So I was like, ooh, okay. So she was like, okay, well, she said, people can change. But she says, after they had that, he says, well, furthermore, I noticed you have an RSVP for, the vow renewal. And she said, well, I was just waiting to see how this conversation was going to go. So in Chris's confessional, he said he felt like it was BS that she didn't RSVP pending the conversation that him and her had. And I said, well, no, I don't think so, because if the conversation didn't go correct or there was some tensions expressed, it got contentious, like how Maurice in her conversation went, if it got contentious like that, I wouldn't show up to your vow renewal where you're celebrating your love and you're celebrating your life. I wouldn't show up there either. So I could understand why she felt that way. So, yeah, and you don't want somebody at your event that you've had any kind of issues or negative aspect with recently. So I don't blame her. So she says she'll be there. She's showing up. She'll be to the vow renewal. They're celebrating their love. So the next scene is the Madani launch. And I will say the event looked beautiful. It wasn't at the storage facility. It was somewhere else. Because I guess Madani is just going to be strictly online and be e-commerce. The place looked immaculate. It was well decorated. It looked gorgeous. I have to say Destiny looked amazing in her outfit. She looked really, really good. All the usual suspects were there except Melody and Sunny. And so you got Kimmi, Maurice, Nell Fletcher, Chris Fletcher, Marsau, and Tisha, and Martell pulls up. So now that they've had the introduction, she gives her speech, everybody splits off into their groups. The ladies go into one group outside and the men go to a table outside. So Nell basically sits down, leading a conversation with Destiny and basically telling her that she's inviting Sunny. And she's like, you have an issue with Sunny doesn't mean that I should have an issue with Sunny. And she's like, that's not a battle that I want to take on. And Destiny says, well, I respect what it is that you're saying, but I'm going to have to reassess our friendship because I can't expect the same loyalty that I give to people for people to return that to me. And I'm like, loyalty? What loyalty did you have, girl? To whom? Who you showing loyalty to? You damn sure ain't never showed no loyalty to Melody because you booed up with Martell, you besties with Coleslaw. What loyalty is there? I'm like, you can't even show any loyalty to Tisha by making her aware that Martell would even pop up. Loyalty to whom? And Nell was like, that's perfectly fine. And she's like, I feel like in her confessional, Nell said, I feel like Destiny wants to choose my friends for me. So if she's on the outs with somebody, I gotta be on the outs for them, and I'm not doing that. And I don't blame her. And not only that, Destiny acts like she's holding her friendship to people hostage, like she's been such a great friend to everybody. Like I'm very confused. Like she's the plug and she does everything. I'm just sorry. I'm not seeing it for Destiny when it comes to showing up for people and being that type of friend. I'm just not seeing it for her. So the next table you have Lance, Marsau, Maurice, and Ken at a table. So Lance let us know that he's been married twice already and divorced, and each marriage has only lasted 2 years. Red flag, red flag, red flag. So, Maurice brings up the fact, he's like, oh, you and Destiny have been hanging out pretty tight, but Lance kind of just ignores it. It's like he doesn't really give much to it. She cool, and that's about it. So Ken then chimes in and says, many people move on while they're married, but a divorce is pending. So what's the problem with me and Trisha doing that? And everybody just kind of looking around like, what? And he was like, he then goes on to say, everybody wants him to be upset with Martell because of the whole Trisha going over there to train him, but this happened before him. And Marsau was like, are you sure? He was like, because she done been caught in a couple of lies. And he was like, look, if something happens after we're together and I find out, I'm leaving. It's no, I don't have no problem walking away. It's just me walking away from the kids. That's what's going to be the hard thing for me. And they all looking at him like, boy, you delusional. Who are you trying to fool? You love that girl. You just can't get up and walk away from her. You actually love that woman. So please stop. So they all disperse, and Marsau goes to talk to Tisha and basically tells him what Ken is saying. And then hooty hoo, Martell pops up, and Tisha comments, she's like, you just love popping up, don't you, Martell? Well, she's like, I don't know why you're here. I'm not going to have any kind of discussion with you. And he should basically go on about his business. Marsau kind of puts his hand on Tisha's leg and just tells her like to chill and just sit a minute, just chill out. Martell then goes in a confessional and calls Marsau a narcissist. And I'm like, pot, kettle, black. All right, so he says Marsau is always trying to control his wife and control the narrative. He says he should not try to force Tisha to sit through this conversation that two men are trying to have. He says, I don't feel like Tisha has a say in her marriage. And, that's, basically that's what it is. And I'm like, ooh, clock it, Martell. So then Martell says, listen, my anger from the field day comes from yada, 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 the podcast and the whole 20 women. And Marcel's like, I've already apologized for that. And Marsau was like holding his feet to the fire, basically saying, look, the stuff you say and the way that you say it is like you're saying that you got something on me. You're trying to hold something over my head. And those things causes issues in my marriage. Martell clocks in again and says, well, your wife did the same thing. And baby, the way Tisha was having a conniption fit in that seat, because she had to sit there and listen to Martell say that. She said, well, when she would come after Melody and bring up something Melody, she was like, well, that's when Melody would say stuff about my husband. And again, Marsau has to calm her down and listen. I'm going to say this. And this is what Martell said, and let me know, do you think it has truth to this? She was like, that he's exposing things about Marsau. He said the more inclined Tisha will feel that she has to do something about it. So basically saying if the more he exposes, then the more people will know about it, and the more based on people's reactions to it, Tisha will have to do something about it. He says he feels like that's what Melody did, because Tisha kept throwing stuff in Melody's face and exposing certain things about their marriage that she felt like she could no longer deal with the cheating alone and the baby, so that's why they ended up divorced. And I was like, oh, wow. All right, let me know if you agree or disagree with Martell's sentiments. He says, Marsau has done a lot of stuff. They've done a lot of stuff together. They've shared people. And he said Marsau has gone after him. Okay, so he done put his Peter Weeder in the stink after Martell. Okay, so they done participated in the choo-choos many a times. Martell said he's basically been keeping all of this stuff to himself, but he says Marsau is constantly poking the bear. And he says he feels like Marsau is doing it because he wants Martell to expose it, so then Tisha can then leave. He says he feels like he may not want his marriage anymore, and he wants Tisha to face the music so she can leave. Now, we'll say this. There are a lot of men out there that don't want to feel or look like the bad guy. So they won't leave you, but they'll do all of these things to make you leave. So it's really not a stretch. Give me your thoughts on that. And guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and engage with me. I definitely comment back when I see your comments. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you're aware when I drop another recap. So Martell begins to say, you tell everybody how slow your wife is. And I'm like, oh my gosh, not somebody on the cast actually saying this. Martell then says, you should be embarrassed. He's saying this to Tisha, talking about you should be embarrassed the way he talks about you in this manner. And I'm uncomfortable just watching it. So I can't imagine being there. And he says Marsau is a horrible guy for putting his wife in this situation. And then there's like a little bit of back and forth with responses. And Tisha is like, he wish he had a wife like me. And he said, everybody wishes they had a wife like you that they can just cheat on and she'll accept it and never leave. I was like, my God. He was like, Tisha accepts everything and tolerates everything. He could do whatever he want to do and she ain't going to leave. And then in Marsau's confessional, before we get to that, he then says that, Marsau says, you're pathetic. And Martell says, no, you make your wife look pathetic. And I was like, clock it. So Martell gets up, and Marsau stands up. He's like, don't run. He's like, don't walk away. He said, I'm just going to tell you right here, I'm better than you in every aspect of life. And I'm like, God damn. So in his confessional, he goes on to say that you can tell Martell feels inferior to me because he's constantly comparing his situation and my situation. And at one time, Martell was the top guy. But now Martell has lost everything and he sees me as the top guy. And I'm like, damn, what do you guys think about Marsau's perspective and what Marsau is saying? Let me know in the comments. Next week's episode, it gets even juicier. Tisha and Trisha, and Mel have a conversation about her messy comments and what she's been saying behind Mel's back. Let me know what you think. Until the next recap, Auntie loves you. Bye-bye.